Welcome to another installment of Donning the Armor. This morning we will begin in Ruth chapter 3, verse 1. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may be well with you?" So as we last left in Ruth is this beautiful story of this young widow and her mother-in-law, who was also a widow who lost her two sons. During a famine, they left the promised land of the Lord, went forth into the land of Moab, seeking the provision of the world over the provision of the Lord, not holding out and waiting out his judgment to be over, and for the nation to turn back to God and seek his face and be rewarded for it, and be brought back into reconciliation with him and back into wealth and prosperity with him. They sought out worldly treasures, bread for their mouths from the world. They went out into Moab. They lived out there for a decade. Their sons grew. They took wives, and she has two daughter-in-laws. When her sons die, her husband dies. She wants to return back to Israel. She's found that Israel is now once again being provided for by the Lord. She wants to go back. One daughter-in-law goes back to her own family's house to seek a new husband, to rejoin that society. But Ruth wants to stay loyal to her mother-in-law. Beautifully says that where you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. I will follow you into death if need be. I will not leave you. And she gives this beautiful speech, this beautiful prayer to be with her mother-in-law, for the Lord to treat them as one almost. That whatever the Lord had in store for Naomi would be in store for her also. They end up going back, gleaning in the fields of Boaz, who is a kinsman of Naomi's late husband. And he's taken an interest in Ruth because of her faithfulness to Naomi, because of her beauty, because of her beautiful soul and the person she is and the loyalness that she's shown. He's treated them all well through the barley and wheat harvest. She's gleaning in the fields of Boaz. And as they're able to support themselves because of the generosity of this kinsman of Naomi's husband, that now she's sitting here in chapter 3 saying, as your acting mother, so to speak, as your lone parent in our situation, shouldn't I be seeking security for you? Shouldn't I be seeking a new husband for you? I can't give you anything as your mother-in-law. I'm an old woman. There's nothing more I can give you. But if we seek security and I can find you a new husband, then it'll be well with you in the future. Naomi's an old woman. Ruth isn't. Ruth comes off as being in her 20s, her early 30s, something where she is well able to marry and bear children still, to have a family, to have something Naomi can't have any longer. Now, Boaz, whose young women you were with, is he not our relative? In fact, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. So she's saying, should I not seek security for you? Should I not look out for what is best for your interests into the future? Two widows are not going to be the best life for you. But now this Boaz, this kinsman, this close relative of ours, who had you sticking close to his young women, to the women who glean in his fields, keeping you safe from the other young men who are around, having his people look after you. Is he not already a relative? Has he not already taken an interest in you? Is he not someone who can be someone to take over the right of your marital relations as someone who is our relative? And in fact, he's winnowing barley. He's out at the threshing floor tonight He's not at home. He's out at the fields you know so well. Therefore wash yourself and anoint yourself. Put on your best garment and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. Then it shall be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies, and you shall go in, uncover his feet, and lie down, and he will tell you what you should do. Saying, wash yourself, get ready to go before him. Put on your best garment. Go down to the threshing floor, but wait until he's already eaten and drank. Wait until he's ready to lie down to go to sleep. You're not going to approach him while he's awake. You wait until he lies down. Wait until everything is already transpired. And then when he lies down, you're going to go in where he's sleeping. You're going to uncover his feet and lie down. People have taken this in so many weird ways. But this is the plan. To go in, look your best, and lay down at his feet. And she said to her, all you say to me, I will do. So Ruth is saying, I trust you fully. Everything as you have said, I'm going to go do. This was her promise to be loyal to Naomi, and she's going to continue to be loyal to Naomi, even through this. So she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all her mother-in-law instructed her. And after Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was cheerful, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. And she came softly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. So he's laying at the heap of grain because you don't want it stolen. He's guarding it, so to speak. As Jesus would say about him and his sheep, that he would be the door of the sheep gate. He would lie at the gate to block any predators from coming in to protect his sheep. That's what Boaz is doing here for the grain. He is keeping it protected. He is now winnowing the barley. He now has this here. He has the good stuff here that he needs to protect, and he's going to protect it himself, sleeping out in front of it. And she comes over softly, quietly, and lays down at his feet. Now it happened at midnight that the man was startled and turned himself, and there a woman was lying at his feet. And he said, who are you? So she answered, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a close relative. So many people have taken this to be absolutely degenerate. That this is her proposing sexual relations with this man, her throwing herself at him. This is all innuendo about sexual intercourse, and the Bible talks about sex quite a bit. It's not very veiled. They're pretty open with what's happening. Hey, this man sees his wife. He goes into her. It's not really veiled. There's not some secret code to figure out. What Naomi's doing in telling Ruth to go there and uncover his feet and lay at his feet, this is what was expected of a servant. That a servant would go sleep at the feet of their master so that they would be at their beck and call at every moment. In a giant house, you would have the servant sleeping close by, maybe in the next room. But they're not in a house. They're out in the open. They're outside. As you would be camping, your servant would sleep right at your feet. So that way they would be there to protect you, there to serve you. That is their job. She is being a servant. At the same time, she is offering herself over to him. Take me under your wing. Bring me into your fold. Bring me into your family. Take me in as one of you. You are a close relative. The kinsman redeemer is known by all. Bring me in to your family. You're a close relative. I was widowed of your family. You can redeem me and redeem Ruth's property. He understands all of this immediately. There's no questions. Everybody wants to make it degenerate because we live in a degenerate society, and they project their degeneracy onto these writings. We call it porn brain all the time. You see a situation that has nothing to do with anything sexual, and you project your degenerate sexual thoughts onto it. Everybody wants to read into these ancient texts the degeneracy of modern day in the way that people are modern day. That's not what's happening. It's innocent and beautiful. It's a beautiful image of somebody trying to give themselves over to someone else, to give themselves over fully. I saw an image online of two pictures. It was a man with his wife and standing outside of their house, and there's beautiful flowers all around. And then there's one with just the man older, and now the garden's unkempt, and the woman's not there because he's been widowed. And the caption said, she even took the color out of his life, which is completely true. She died, she took the joy and color and wonder out of his life, because that's what happens when the woman you love or the husband you love leaves you. It leaves a deep void, and the things that you love together are sometimes too much for you to do by yourself. But then there's another caption of people much more cynical, much more degenerate of our modern day, saying she didn't take the color from his life. She took the unpaid emotional labor of being a woman. Because they're unable to see the wonder and joy and beauty of a God-honoring union of a man and a woman. The give and take that comes from that relationship, from that wonder of being married. These people are projecting that young woman is projecting her own degenerate view of love onto that old widowed man and their lifelong relationship. In the same way people are doing that here with Ruth and Boaz. They see everything, they view every physical, loving relationship as lust. And they project their desire for lust onto the love others have for each other. And that's all they view. And that's why their relationships fail so spectacularly. Because they can't see past their own lust to the love that could possibly wait. Someone who is true and heartfelt and sacrificial and serving. If you want to be a good husband to your wife, you want to be a good wife to your husband, do what we all fail to do because we're all so fallen and selfish in our lives and selfish with our times. You want to be the best husband, best wife. Be a servant. Be a servant for your spouse. Your relationship shouldn't be 50-50. It should be just 100% not expecting your spouse to do anything. I am an absolute failure at this. My wife is so much more better at this than I am. At giving of herself so that we have a good house and good children. I am so much more selfish. I don't intend to be, but I am. But if I ever want to be as good a husband and have as good a relationship and as loving a relationship as this is, as beautiful as this account of Ruth and Boaz is, I need to stop being selfish and give of myself. Give of my time, give of my heart, give of my desires, and give them up for her. And when you're both doing that, you will hit a 50-50 relationship. But that shouldn't be your goal. You should look to give up 100%. And God will see to it that you guys meet in the middle and you form a perfect cohesive union, which is what marriage was meant to be. After Ruth, we'll get the 1 Samuel, where we'll see yet another polygamist marriage, and another marriage of women who are embittered and upset and driven to despair because it's not the perfect union of one man and one woman that God put forth through the creation of Adam and Eve. That perfect marriage of two people who truly become one flesh and form each other's perfect other half. You can't do that with multiple wives. And we will see it again and again and again as long as we read Scripture. We will witness these terrible descriptions of what marriage is when it's not done correctly. So when you do see a marriage coming together in a beautiful, correct fashion, don't read into it your own degenerate, modern-day societal ills into something so nasty. This is a beautiful thing. And the people who try to make it degenerate are not reading what is there. They're inserting their own vileness into something of beauty. Then he said, "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, in that you did not go after young men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you what you request. For all the people of my town know that you are a virtuous woman. So blessed are you. You have shown more kindness at the end than in the beginning." Remember, she was very kind to him in the beginning. He was kind to her, and she was nervous, but she showed kindness and loyalty to Naomi. Now she's showing kindness to him, coming to him. He's an older man, and he had his young men around watching out for her. He has these young, strapping men working the fields, these young bachelors, these young men who are in the height of their life. But this woman isn't looking for someone like that. She's looking to honor the culture that she's coming into. She's looking to honor the God that she has sworn allegiance to. She's looking to honor the mother-in-law she swore loyalty to. And as I said, for all the degeneracy talk, Boaz immediately understands what she's doing with his feet. At first, when he first woke up, he had no idea who was there. Makes sense. You're startled. But he knows what she's there for. That all that you request, I'll do. Because everyone in town knows you are a virtuous woman. That you are a good woman. You're not like the Moabitesses that we were warned about for generations. You are a good, virtuous, God-fearing woman. Everyone can see that. We get so tribalistic that we look at things and say, oh, that person's past, they can't be made right in God. Once you're this, you're always this. Oh, that person comes from there, that I can't be around those people. The fruit you bear shows the spirit you house. When we bear the fruit of Christ, the fruit of spirit, all those gifts, all those fruit, the love, the patience, the kindness, the long-sufferingness, the joy, then people see the Spirit that indwells us. That Holy Spirit, that Spirit of God that has made us his tabernacle. And he's saying everybody could see this inside of you. People might have looked at first and saw Naomi, a returned woman who is embittered and alone, a woman who said that she is empty when she left full. And they saw her coming back with a Moabite woman. But everyone now from your fruit sees you are virtuous and great and a wonderful woman, loyal in everything that a woman should be. Now it is true that I am a close relation. However, there is a relative closer than I. Stay this night, and in the morning it shall be that if he will perform the duty of a close relative for you, good, let him do it. But if he does not want to perform the duty for you, then I will perform the duty for you as the Lord lives. Lie down until morning. Not he went into her, not anything else, but stay the night. And in the morning it will be that I'll go in and perform the duty. I will go in and I will find this relative. I will see if he wants to be your kinsman redeemer. Stay the night because this is where you'll be safest with me. Everyone knows you're a virtuous woman. Everybody knows I'm a God-fearing man. Nobody is going to question anything about this. Lie down until morning. Be safe here. He will go on to tell her, don't let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. Because he does not want any ill will coming out of this. As if this is some kind of strange setup. But he's telling her to stay because this is where she's safest, with him. He will not let anything bad happen to her. So she lay at his feet until morning, and she arose before one could recognize another. Then he said, do not let it be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Is he talking to her? Possibly. He could also be talking to the other people at the threshing floor. Don't let it be known that the woman, not just a woman, but the woman came to the threshing floor. I have a feeling he's kind of talking to everyone. That if there's anyone else there, he's talking to them, and he's also talking in the presence of her. She said, don't let it be known that a woman came here. Because there's business to be about, and we don't need gossip in business. Also, he said, bring the shawl that is on you and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 ephahs of barley and laid it on her. Then she went into the city. Now, there's some different variations of this. Some of the older texts say he went into the city. Some say she. They both go into the city, though. He goes to the gate of the city to see the elders and find the close relative to conduct the business because that's where they did it. And she also goes into the city because she lives with Naomi in the city. So they both go into the city, technically. So whether it says he or she, they both actually go into the city. Then she went to her mother-in-law, and she said, is that you, my daughter? Remember, it's early. Then she told her all that the man had done for her. And she said, these 6 ephahs of barley he gave me. For he said to me, do not go empty-handed to your mother-in-law. So he gave it to her because he didn't want her returning to Naomi, this woman who she's been working hard to gather food for, to go empty-handed. He wanted them to have food, to be able to make bread, to have breakfast, to be cared for while all of this gets taken care of. Then she said, sit still, my daughter, until you know how the matter will turn out. For the man will not rest until he has concluded the matter this day. Don't worry about it. This is a man of action. Boaz will have this matter concluded today. Whether the other man chooses to become your kinsman redeemer or Boaz will, this matter will be set to rest. Be still. Don't worry. And oftentimes, especially when we see it in the Psalms, this be still means to just rest completely. Don't act. Be still and know that I am God. Means you don't act. Just know I am God and I will take care of it. So Naomi's telling Ruth, don't act. Just sit and wait. He will do this. He will have the matter concluded. So moving on to chapter 4. Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, "Come aside, friend, sit down here." So he came aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." So they sat down. This has probably got to be pretty perplexing in a way. It's like, come in, I have business with you. They know each other. They're relatives. They know each other. And then he goes, gathers up the 10 elders and said, "Okay, you need to sit here and be witness to this." So they sat down because that is what the gate of the city was for. This was for this business to hold these kinds of meetings. The elders knew what their job were. So they sit down, and now the business is to go forth. Then he said to the close relative, "Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform you, saying, buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants and the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you." So he's saying, here's this land that has been sold. It needs to be redeemed. You have the chance to redeem it. They probably sold it when they moved to Moab. And they're too far away from the year of Jubilee to get the land back. And she has no male heirs to bring it back either. So you can redeem it because you're first in line. You are the next of kin. But let me know, because if you don't, then I'm next and I have to make my own decision on this. Then he said, "I will redeem it." So the man's looking at the land and saying, "I'll redeem it. I can use that land. I can use that house. I can use all of this stuff. I can take care of Naomi. That's great. I'll do it." Then Boaz says, "On the day you buy the field, though, from the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, and perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance." So he's saying, okay, but on the day you buy it, you're now having to play the role of younger brother to her dead husband. And now you need to take Ruth as a wife to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance. So this man, this close relative, will not even be the inheritor of the land. It'll be Ruth's son who would end up inheriting the land. And at that point, the close relative says, "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it." So he's saying, "Oh, hold on a minute. Like, I can't be marrying the Moabitess. That's going to ruin my own inheritance, because that's not going to be inherited to me. That's going to go to her son, because that's technically going to be her dead husband's son through his lineage. That land will stay in the hand of Elimelech and Naomi now through their bloodline. It's not even going to be mine. Plus, guy's probably married and probably thinking, I don't need this headache. Just, I'm out. You want to redeem it? You have absolute authority under my name. You can do whatever you want. I bless you. Do whatever you want. I'm done." Now, this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm anything, one man took off his sandal and gave it to the other, and this was a confirmation in Israel. Now, what would happen normally if somebody would not take on the duty of perpetuating the bloodline? Normally, it was a younger brother over the widow of the older brother. The woman would take his sandal and spit in his face. Because he's the kinsman redeemer, it's not quite that drastic here. Plus, Ruth is not there. But he's taking off his sandal, because that would mean he's the man without a sandal. He would be looked down upon. In this instance, I don't believe this man would be looked down upon. I think people would look at the situation differently because he's not the younger brother of Ruth's dead husband. Therefore the close relative said to Boaz, "Buy it for yourself." So he took off his sandal. And Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "You are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilon's and Mahlon's, from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my wife to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day." So he's making the public proclamation, I'm going to buy the land. I'm going to take over that land as an inheritance for the son that will eventually come out of the womb of Ruth the Moabitess. That Mahlon's son, spiritually, so to speak, like legally, not obviously blood-wise, will have his name still continued through the inheritance so that Elimelech's name will not be cut off from among his brethren. And everyone is a witness to it. And all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, "We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who is coming to your house like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel. And may you prosper in Ephratah and be famous in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring which the Lord will give you from this young woman." So paying homage to the women who bore, or the wives, not the concubines, of the women who bore the houses of Israel, who would be the mothers of those who would be the 12 tribes. That your wife be as blessed as they were. May your house be like the house of Perez, which is an interesting thing that we already went through, where Judah wouldn't give his youngest son over to the widow of his first 2 sons, Tamar, and then he slept with her thinking she was a prostitute, and all of the ugliness that came from that. All the ugliness that came from that. And they say, may your house be like the house of Perez, that young man born out of that wickedness of the human flesh and deceitfulness. Tamar's not even the one that should take blame for the deceitfulness there. It is on Judah. But how great that Judah is the one that David would come from, the one that would spearhead the charge through the wilderness, the one through whom the kingship wouldn't ever be relinquished, because it would pass on to Jesus, the everlasting Lord of Lords and Kings of Kings. It's so interesting to see the imperfections become the perfections. The way God can use man's wickedness for his own glory. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And when he went into her, not veiling it at all, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative, and may his name be famous in Israel, and may he be a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons is born him." So the women are saying, you came back saying, call me Mara, call me bitterness. But blessed be the Lord, who has not left you, who has blessed you in this way. May he be famous. May this young grandson be a restorer of life to you, a nourisher to you in your old age. And this daughter-in-law, this precious, loyal daughter-in-law, has loved you better than 7 sons ever could. And she has borne him. Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse to him. Also the neighbor women gave him a name, saying, "There is a son born to Naomi." And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram. Ram begot Abinadab. Aminadab begot Nahshon. And Nahshon begot Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz. Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse. And Jesse begot David. Not all the generations are listed there. There are generations they left out. But the idea of putting these 10 generations in are the generations that have led from Judah to David, a direct lineage from Judah to getting to King David. We look at God's plan in all its trials and tribulations and heartbreak, and we hold our heads up high. We try to as Christians. And then we got to answer the questions of the unbelievers. So your loving God gives a baby cancer to test the parents' faith? So your God is okay with rape and incest and mutilation? So your God's okay? So if your God kills your child, that's good of your God. That's his perfect plan. As a Christian, the answer is just yes. Yes, that's his perfect plan. Because we don't know his perfect plan until it's fulfilled. I've talked about Jim Elliot before. Says he'll give his life for Christ, goes to meet uncontacted tribes, gets killed. And I even asked my daughter the same question. Does that look like a perfect life for him? No. But then you see what his wife goes on to do. Led on by the sacrifice he made. Judah had 3 sons. One had a wife in Tamar. The second one didn't want to do his duty as a younger brother. And the Lord struck him dead just like his older brother who was wicked as well. Judah, in his selfishness, doesn't want to give her up to the 3rd son. Keeps the 3rd son from her. Then accuses her of harlotry because he finds out she's pregnant. He was the one that she played the harlot with because he forced her into playing the harlot. And the Lord uses that act of selfishness and rebellion from the other sons to bring forth this child, Perez, who would bring about Boaz, who would bring about Obed, who would bring about David, who would eventually bring about Jesus. Naomi's plan for her life was never to go through a famine. It was to raise her kids, raise them happily in Israel. They lost that when the famine hit. They went to Moab. You could argue they should have never went to Moab. None of this would have happened. But they did. And the Lord knew they would. Because he knows all. He didn't force them out to Moab, but he knew they would go to Moab. He knew the loyalty of Ruth. You see the Lord's plan for Naomi, and it was wrought with bitterness and trial and heartbreak and tribulation. All to bring about this lineage to bring us down to the greatest king Israel would ever know in David, and eventually bring us down all the way down to the salvation of all mankind in Jesus Christ. Naomi, all through her life, she comes back to Israel. Call me bitter. I left full and poor and have come back completely empty. I left full and came back empty. But the Lord wasn't finished his plan. The plan hadn't come to fruition. The plan hadn't come to its end. He still had some more steps on it. He still had one amazing blessing to come from it. God's plan is perfect. Perfect. And for our hope and for our future, doesn't make his plan easy. Doesn't make his plan for our lives smooth. It doesn't mean that we won't at one point cry out and yell, "Call me Mara. Call me bitterness." But that doesn't mean his plan isn't perfect. As long as we stay faithful. She said, "Call me bitter because God has forsaken me." But she never forsook God. She stayed loyal, even when she didn't think he was being loyal to her. And eventually she would see the plan he had for her life. And it was for her hope, for her future, for everything that was best for her, in a way that she could never have truly understood in her distress, and probably never fully comprehended until she went to be with him when she drew her last breath here. Just because God's plan is hard and rough and scary and depressing doesn't mean it isn't perfect, because it's where we end with him in his unbelievable, joyous, eternal presence. That is what matters. Life is a momentary affliction in the face of the eternal. Looking at snippets of the path of the journey can lead us to get a wrong idea of where we are headed and why we're headed there. When the path gets rough, sometimes we question the why and the how. But when we have the joy and the understanding of who has total sovereignty over us, we understand it's perfect and loving and amazing. An unbeliever can never understand that because they've never done as Ruth and laid themselves at the feet in utter subordination to the kinsman redeemer who came forth to purchase us back from the debt of sin that we were born into because of our shared ancestor selling away the ability to live in the presence of God when Adam and Eve ate of that fruit. We know better than they do. We are not better than they are, but we're better off for the truth that we've been opened up to. So don't forget to pray and spread the seeds of the gospel to continue steadfast in his word, to be a light and salt for the people around us who have yet to see the truth. But anyway, that's where we shall end it for this morning. I hope this was fruitful for you. I hope to see you back again next time. But until then, be blessed.